Learning objectives and open source movements are indeed quite comparable. Both are seen as management systems to support content, practice, and assessment for learning. We see learning objectives as an entity that provokes curiosity, learning, and understanding of an object. In the same respect, the open source movement is seen as an entity that supports the availability of information for the same purposes, and that's to provoke curiosity, learning, and understanding of an object. Both systems seem to have a lasting effect on the distance educational environment. According to Barron, Willis, and Lee, the authors of Creating Higher Education, Academic and Information Technology, movements such as open source and open access have encouraged colleges and universities to consider alternatives to the dominant model for acquiring everything from college textbooks to academic computer software. The open source movement is seen as a viable alternative to providing educational institutions and individuals with resources which ultimately supports the advancement in technology and distance education. Jeff Steele, the author of Open Source Software and Resources, notes, open sources promotes resource sharing and works for the development and implementation of standards. So here we see learning objectives and the open source movement working hand in hand. The open source movement provides the distance educational environment with digital resources, otherwise seen as learning objectives, used to support learning. Thus, digital resources used to support learning can be used in a variety of ways. For example, in mathematics, it can help students rehearse multiplication, and in science, it can help students understand tectonics. That's noted by Falun, Jansen, and Jansen. In closing, both learning objectives and the open source movement are seen as two critical components to educational leadership. Through the use of both systems, distance education is seen as a means to advance and overcome the resistance that many educators have with distance education and the use of technology.